Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite all of you to come inside the ballroom and settle into your seat so we can start with our final section right away. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our final section will start now. May I invite all of you to come inside the ballroom and settle into your seat so our program can start as planned. Thank you very much. Once again, I would like to invite our audience to come inside the ballroom and settle into your seat. So our next section will start right away. Thank you very much. Please come inside the ballroom. Our moderator and speaker are ready and we wait for our audience to take your seat. So please come inside so our program can run as planned. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everyone. We hope that everyone had a fruitful and fun time at both parallel check section. And we will now proceed to our final plenary section titled New gTLD Program Next Round. And this plenary will discuss the plan for the next round with application targets to open in Q2 2026 and highlight use case and successful stories from different generic top-level domains. And attending in our stage, please welcome our section moderator, Ms. Marika Koning, Vice President, New gTLD Program Lead at ICANN, and also the panelists for this session. And now, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you all for being with us here today. I know this is the last session standing between you and the social event, so we really appreciate you all being here. Before I introduce this stellar panel, I thought it might be helpful if I first give you a little bit of background on the new gTLD program, and in particular what is planned for the next round, because I may live and breathe new gTLDs, but I know that may not be the case for all of you here, although I do see some familiar faces here in the room that do so. Looking at you, Justine. So let me see if I can get this to work. There we go. So for a little bit of context, ICANN has carried out 3 application rounds for new gTLDs, one in 2000, 2004, and most recently in 2012. The 2012 round of new gTLD applications was the largest expansion of the DNS to date, aimed at encouraging innovation, competition, and consumer choice in the domain name system. In the 2012 round, we received 303 applications from this region. Today, there are now over 1,200 gTLDs delegated with the DNS supporting domain names in multiple scripts, as well as gTLDs longer than 3 characters. Amongst others, new gTLDs represent brands, communities, and geographies, as you can see on this slide. As has been reconfirmed by the ICANN community through its policy development process, the objective of the new gTLD program is to foster diversity, encourage competition, and enhance the utility of the domain name system, which is in turn expected to translate into greater consumer choice. You can see here some of the examples of how gTLDs can represent industries, creative tools, geographies, scripts, brands, and online identities, to just name a few. For those who would like to see some more specific examples of what that means in practice, I would like to encourage you to visit the new gTLD program website, where you can find a number of use cases, of which you see a couple of examples here. I expect our panel members to also share further information with you about their respective TLDs and how they have contributed to enhancing the choice for consumers. Following the 2012 round, the ICANN community embarked on a policy development process to review the 2012 experience and recommend enhancements derived from that experience. As a result of that process and the recommendations that resulted from it, we're now implementing these recommendations for the next round, which is expected to open for applications in April 2026. I also wanted to take this chance to mention a number of the new elements of this next round compared to the one in 2012. There's now a strengthened applicant support, or ASP program, that aims to support eligible entities with financial and non-financial support for their gTLD application. Applications for this program are open and can be submitted until November of this year. There's now also a standalone registry service provider, or RSP, evaluation program, which carries out the technical evaluation of operating a gTLD, which is separate from the evaluation of the application for the gTLD label. The application phase for pre-evaluation for this program ends later this month, but it will reopen again when we open the window for gTLD applications. Thanks to the work of the different script communities, there are now also additional scripts available for internationalized domain names. There are now a total of 26 scripts, which represent over 380 languages. And last but not least, this is the first time that it will be possible to apply for variant TLDs. And again, this is thanks to the work of the ICANN community, who established the rules by which this is possible to happen. Now, just for a very quick look, the timeline that puts all the major milestones together, and as I mentioned, the opening of the window for new gTLDs, which is planned for 2026. Of course, this is just a snapshot of the information that I've shared here. I would really like to encourage you to visit the new gTLD program website, where we have a wealth of information available. The slides for this session will also be posted on the website. In the annex, you find some more details on some of the things I described here. But I said, there's a lot of information here. But now that I got that out of the way, it's time to introduce our panel. So I'm really pleased that we have a number of panelists here on stage, and as well one with us remotely. So first of all, we have Catherine Liu, the Director of International Business for ZDNS. Jacob Williams, the General Manager of Domain Services for Interlink. With us remotely, Michael Palage, representing FTLD Registry. Pendri Arunwatanang Mongol, the Executive Director for the Thai Network Information Center Foundation. Ronald Swartzler, CEO, DomainWorks Service and Management. And Alban Kwan, Head of Corporate Development and Strategic Alliances, APAC CSC. So as you see, a wealth of knowledge and expertise here on stage. I'll kick things off here with the first question for the panel, but I would like you to start thinking about your questions and comments, because I really would appreciate your input and participation in this discussion. So for the first question, which I would like all the panelists to provide a response to, as I mentioned as part of my introduction, the ICANN community has reaffirmed that the main objective of new gTLDs is to foster diversity, encourage competition, and enhance the utility of the DNS. I think we're having some audio interference. There we go. So the question is, what is, from your perspective, the strategic value of new gTLDs? And I would also like to encourage you to, as part of your answer, highlight your perspective with specific examples. And I would maybe suggest that we start at the end with Catherine.
Okay, thank you, Marika. So I'm honored to participate in the ICANN APAC meeting and contribute to today's plenary. I'm Catherine Liu from ZDNS, a registry service provider based in Beijing. During the first round of new gTLD application, we supported 21 TLDs to do the consulting, and RSP services, including the ASCII and IDN TLDs. We also operate our own TLDs for .vans and .rem. So today, actually, we don't operate the .网址. In English, name is .website, but we have played a key role in enabling its technical development and global adoption. So today, I'll share some IDN use case of .website. The first user case should be Chengdu Universal Ride website. In Chinese is 成都大运会点网址. This domain name use Chinese IDN characters for both part. For the translating after that in Chinese, it's better for understanding for all Chinese clients. So it is a major sporting event in China with 3 of the key events website using .website, .网址. So including the official website, the Moscow website, and its official ticket website. So this is the first world-class event if they use IDN domain name as their official website. So it is more in line with the culture and the language habits of Chinese user, so they can easier to visit and remember about their domain name, not only to remember of the ASCII domain name, they can input more easier and more comfortable. So the second case is the Panelists Museum website. In Chinese is 故宫博物馆点网址. So it is well known towards attractions in China, the Panelists Museum. So it established a digital identity with an IDN domain name. So the third case is a beer website. It's named 青啤点网址. In English is 青岛 beer 点网址 .website. So China's well-known beer brand is Qingdao Beer. They registered their domain name 青啤点网址 in 2015, and which is conducive to promoting its enterprise online branding and enhance its brand recognition on the internet. The last one is Beijing International Film Festival .website. Actually, this name is really quite long in English, but it is a Chinese IDN domain name, 北京电影节点网址. So I translate in Chinese and in both English to understand what the exactly website it is. So the launch of Chinese IDN brings more movies fans to visit their closer, and the clients can directly to access the domain name in their own language. So if I were type the English, just like Beijing International Film Festival, I need to remember the correctly about the word order or how to spelling, avoid the typos. But in Chinese, I can direct input in Chinese IDN for the Chinese word. It's more easier for a Chinese user to visit a website, use IDN TLD or IDN website. So actually 40% of the global population speak non-Latin languages. By allowing people to access the internet using their native languages, IDN provide internet user with diverse online options. It reduces input friction, will strengthen the cultural identity. I think like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for highlighting those IDN examples. I think we'll just follow down the queue here. So Ronald, maybe I can ask you to respond next.
Hello, this is Ronald Schwärzler. In my daily life, in my daily profession, I'm CEO of 3 geographic TLDs. You might know the term. You all know CCTLDs, which cover a country. And in our case, the gTLD .Vienna more or less covers or is intended to attract the people, the businesses, the organization located in Vienna, thereby stressing their connection, their emphasis, their connection, yeah, I said it, to the city of Vienna. I'm also running a TLD, the gTLD for the German city .Cologne. This is what I'm doing day by day. I'm also CEO of a RSP, Registry Service Provider, providing the technical needed things to the registry operators. In my let's say, non-for-profit life. I'm ex-com of the gTLD group. This is a non-for-profit organization based in Brussels. We meet once a year in person. The rest of the year we are meeting virtually. And members are cities, region, like .Paris, .Amsterdam, .Stockholm, .Swiss. You all know these cities. Partially run by the city council itself, partially run in a private-public partnership. Stockholm, for example, runs it for the city only. So they are not selling domain names, but they want to build an area of trust. If you see a domain name, a URL ending in .Stockholm, you can absolutely be sure that it is originated by the city administration, city council of Stockholm. Different than with, for example, .London. This is a private company running .London, having to take the financial burden to run a TLD, but has the probability of getting money back by selling domain names. And then we have other organizational examples, like, for example, the Basque country, one federal state region in Spain, south of France. They are a non-for-profit organization supported by the governments, taking care of the cultural, linguistic features like Brittany.bzh, Galicia.gal, the Catalans.cat. So there are many of these TLDs stressing their local identities and transported in the internet of today and tomorrow. In this group, we are sharing experience. We are not competitors to each other. One registrant buying a .Vienna, .Wien domain name would not buy a .cat or a .London. He's based in Vienna. He's based in London. So we do not steal the customers from the other, like probably .online and .web and .com. I don't think they would share their experience in marketing in cost per acquisition of a registrant. In the gTLD group, we do this. So this is, I think, quite unique. There is another group doing this too. This is the brand registry group. Same again, but different concept. So I encourage any one of you who is interested in running a TLD in the next round not to go alone. It's very hard to navigate through the ICANN environment if you're a newcomer. If you have friends, if you have colleagues, and I mean real friends, not being your competitors, use this advantage. One advantage if running for a gTLD is join the gTLD group. There will be organizations having suffered already what you plan probably to go through. And it's amazing. I like my job. I like my TLDs. I like the other gTLDs. So, but without the help of the others, I would not have come with my TLDs where we are today.
Thank you very much for that and giving that perspective. I think some of the words I've already picked up here, listening to you and to Catherine, the strategic value being your trust, you're feeling connected, providing direct services to your customers and communities, the cultural value, but I think most of all, identity is, I think, one thing that is coming clearly through. Henry, if I can maybe ask you to go next.
Thank you. So I'm here in the capacity of Thailand. In the 2012, Thailand received one new gTLD name delegated to a brand, which is a bank. And so I believe new gTLD enhanced the utility of DNS by creating namespace that more relevant and meaningful to specific community or interest. For the bank itself, I think it is a trusted namespace that they can encourage their internet user that if the user see the name, domain name under .bank, then their bank name, then this is the real, I mean, nobody can register a second level domain name under their own names, the top level domain. And beside that, I think the IDN also open up the linguistic diversity. So I believe that is the digital digital divide gap can be filled in by the IDNs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. An important point there. Indeed, the local scripts and languages, making that connection with local communities, a key element as well. Jacob, I think you're next in line.
So I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Jacob Williams. I work for a company called Interlink out of Tokyo. We're a technology provider, mainly an internet service provider. I joined Interlink right before, I guess, right after the new gTLD program. It was the application process started in 2012. It was just barely approved, I think. And so from 2009 until application, I pretty much ate, sleep, and breathed new gTLDs until we applied. Interlink applied for 4 TLDs, and we ended up getting 3, which I thought was quite a feat for a small company like ours. So we applied for .earth, .site, and then .osaka. And then we had one more application that we weren't sure of. And we thought with .earth and .site and .osaka, it's probably going to be left out of the game. So we applied for a very obscure TLD called .moe, M-O-E. And that is got a very targeted audience. It's for people who, it's a fandom site. So people who have an affinity for something. In Japanese, it's like you have a moe, like a burning, you're a fan of it, basically. So for us, we believe the strategic value in new gTLDs was creating an online trusted namespace for a specific community. Thus, Osaka, moe for the fandom people, and .earth for people who love the planet. And then we also applied for some TLDs on behalf of some brands as well. And so I think the .brand value is pretty inherent, being able to run your own, I guess, trusted namespace, gives you your own infrastructure. And I think Albin will probably be able to speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think what keeps on coming back is the trusted namespace is a really important factor in this. So Albin, please go.
All right, so my name is Albin Kwan, representing CSC. I think we are going to talk about the new gTLD from the perspective of the larger corporation who apply for something called a .brand. So we are responsible for roughly about 1/3 of all the .brand application worldwide. And I think in terms of the strategic value, especially related to the ICANN mission, is we're seeing more adoption of the new gTLD usage that is aimed to enhance the utility of the DNS and specifically on cybersecurity. So I certainly can't disclose the business plan of some of our customers, but one of the more public usage is from Microsoft. So I don't want to misrepresent them, but just roughly, if you look into a large corporation architecture, it could be really complicated. There are multiple domain names used even for a single application. So within a large company, the domain space and the domain usage and the infrastructure could be really complicated. So one particular usage is that we can utilize a .brand to create a safe space and reorganize our internal infrastructure in a way that actually makes sense and is simplified everything together. And that space, with the new gTLD, we can implement security measure like, HTTPS in the zone, in the root zone. So it's actually become a really secure space across the entire infrastructure. And we are going to see, even in round 2, I think this is going to be a key strategic value when it comes to .brand application.
Thank you very much. So security, trust, closely linked, obviously, but another important factor in the considerations. Michael, are you still with us online?
Hello. I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So my name's Michael Plage. I'm an external consultant to FTLD Registry, and I'm here today to share their experience in connection with the .bank top-level domain. Would like to just begin by thanking the APAC DNS forum for inviting me here. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person. I was in Da Nang about a year and a half ago at the DNS OARC, and great country and culture and community. So to Marika's question, my first reaction was not to sound like an attorney, but it depends. So over the last 25 years, I've probably worked with approximately about 200 registry operators. And I've worked with very large ones like .info and very small ones like .bank and .coop. I personally have found the most joy working with smaller niche or community TLDs. And to share sort of that experience, I'd like to share some numbers regarding .bank. So in the US, there are 4,500 licensed banks in the US. Right now, FTLD actually has 800 of them using .bank as their primary website. This is not a registration. This is actual use for consumer-facing actions. So that is approximately 20% market share. If you look at the total number of registrations, there's approximately over 2,000 representing almost 40%. So if you were to go to any marketing person and say, we're going to have 40% market share as far as selling our goods and 20% market share regarding actual adoption and use, that would be pretty successful. So what I'd like to do is share what I think has been sort of FTLD's secret to success. And a lot of this goes to the FTLD team, Heather, Craig, and Des. So one of the things that is very important, we've talked about trust, but security is actually the bedrock for .bank as well as .insurance. There are hard-coded into the registrant agreements a number of security requirements. The zones need to be within the .bank. They require DNSSEC signed through the entire zone. There is mandatory encryption and TLS requirements 1.2 and above, and there is required email authentication. And as a result of this, the value of not only trust, but of security is really what has driven an annual renewal rate of 94%. And the reason that that's probably not higher is because there are some banks, as a result of merger and acquisitions, that's generally the primary reason why those domain names are not renewed. And I think this is the one thing that is really different, and would like to stress this about a .info versus a .bank. If you look at most of the larger gTLD registries, they are actually driving towards a thin or minimum data set. FTLD is taking the exact opposite. They need to know every one of their registrants. Not only do they need to know them, but they interact with them on a regular basis as part of the security requirements. So to me, that is what I think is special. And I think, Ronald talked about this with the geos. It's a different mindset. And I think that, to me, is, the real opportunity here. While I'm sure there's a lot of VC that want to be, the next .com, there is the ability to provide value and benefit to a community with a niche TLD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. So I think what I've kind of listed here is, security, trust, identity, community, local scripts, languages. Have we missed anything? Is there anything here, anyone here in the audience or online that thinks are other strategic values of new gTLDs or may have some specific questions for the panel following their first interventions? Feel free to come up to the mic. No? Don't be shy. All right, I think I'll just dive into the next question. Hopefully that'll trigger some more input from the audience. So looking back and looking forward, so the first part of the question is looking back at the new gTLDs from the 2012 round, how do you think these have impacted the APAC region? And what is your interest or what is your assessment of the interest and nature of potential applicants from this region that we may see in the next round? I don't know, who would like to go first on that one?
I may address this and give two examples in two separate APAC region. So the first one being Japan. What we can see at the moment is that because Japanese companies are structured in a really specific way, they have a headquarters in Japan, but they are managed rather decentralized across different regions. So with new gTLD, there's a chance that they can actually use the new gTLD to unify and consolidate the management of domain names across the entire across the world, and that's something quite difficult for Japanese company to do under the existing system because everything is decentralized and the ccTLD are managed by various different people. It's really hard for them to actually have the internal conversation for this, centralized management. So I presume that with the new gTLD and especially the .brand, that might open up an opportunity for Japanese Japanese corporates to actually do something that Microsoft do, maybe reorganizing the management structure and maybe even some of the internal infrastructure. That would be hopefully something that we see. Now, the second one is actually rather interesting. And that example comes from China. And that particular use case might be related to geopolitics. So in one particular trip that I went to in China and talking to a few corporations, I was quite surprised that they all asked me the same question about a particular takedown by CIA on a website under .com, actually. So they are really concerned about this. I was really surprised. But this is what happened. Some action that we may not be fully aware could have a larger impact in some location. Now, that raised a concern that, if geopolitical issues are going to influence the availability of their digital infrastructure, what would be the potential risk mitigation measure? And actually, the conversation actually goes into .brand conversation as well, because the worry is that if they are using a traditional domain name, they are certainly subject to the regulation where the registry and the registrar are located. So takedown could happen because of local law enforcement or whatnot. If you are able to get into a .brand, then you can basically bypass to potential opportunity for takedown. And for them, this actually becomes an interesting prospect and reason to apply for a .brand themselves for mitigation of geopolitical pressure. So I hope these two examples would be interesting for the audience.
Thank you for that perspective. So I think what I heard you say that potential applicants may be looking at what has been successful for others and may try to replicate that or look at how they can make use of that experience and knowledge. And on the other hand, there may be as well applicants that look at being able to control their space and limiting their dependency on others or those in other jurisdictions that could potentially impact their business or communities that operate in that space. Ronald, please go ahead.
Ronald Schwerzler, gTLDs. I'm not familiar with the Asian market, yeah, but I think that it is the same thing. You want to attract tourists. Yeah? And I will give you an example of Austria. You probably might know the city of Salzburg, the city of Mozart. Why shouldn't they try to get a .Salzburg? Why shouldn't get Halong here in Vietnam try to get a .Halong? And then they could advertise, come to .Halong. Yeah? Let me get back to the example of the city of Salzburg or the federal state of Salzburg. Salzburg.at, yeah, they are running it at the moment, but they have to have the .at name. If you have a .Salzburg name, you can have the tourism.salzburg. The car manufacturer or one of the car sellers could get BMW.Salzburg. Hotels.Salzburg could be the register for the hotels. So there are quite logic things that you as the registry operator could sell to the businesses, to the organizations, to the administrations. If you see it from a private, let's say, approach to make money out of a gTLD. If you're the city of Salzburg, you probably want to make sure that you have, like I gave the example of .Stockholm, that you have an area of trust having, like you said, DNSSEC enabled from the root the HTTPS protocol, like Michael mentioned with the .bank example. You can do all this in a gTLD also. The approach is different, but I think stressing the region, stressing the culture, the language, without having the need of somehow buying, and we all know how expensive the best fitting domain name could be. If you want a .com domain name probably being 2 or 3 characters long, I think you can also run a new TLD for some years, yeah, and you can make money out of this TLD. So I encourage everyone to think of regions, of attractions that could be in connection with a new TLD.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective and sharing as well where that has been successful and how indeed in the region they may want to think about indeed how that could allow for new markets and the tourism space, for example. Michael, I think I saw your hand up. Please go ahead.
Michael Plage for the record. I just wanted to follow up on some of the comments of Albin because I think the Microsoft example is really a good one for any brands that are thinking about applying. And while Albin can't speak for Microsoft, actually Cole Quinn from Microsoft actually gave an excellent summary of what Microsoft was doing at last year's contracting party event summit in Paris. So I would encourage everyone to go back and look at that recording. I think it will just reaffirm all of the points that Albin has made and really will show some value for brands. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. And as I noted previously, we do already have a number of use cases on our website as well for those that want to look into this. And if you would like to see your TLD represented there, please reach out to us. We always welcome new use cases because, again, we think it's really important indeed to showcase what has done because, again, it could be a good example or inspiration for those that may be thinking about applying for a TLD. Who else wants to respond? Henry, go ahead.
Okay. In terms of Thailand, so we incorporate with ICANN, organize new gTLD next round awareness in Thailand last month, and we got interest. From, like he said, brand TLD, also I think GO another one, and from perspective of the APAC diversity cultural, I think IDN will again receive more applicants Yeah, I think so. From in terms of Thailand.
Thank you for that. Jacob or Catherine?
I can add a few comments. Just in general, I think new gTLDs from the last round have increased the awareness of domain names in at least my local market in Japan. You know, I think maybe the Japanese market's slightly different than what you would see in I don't know the rest of Asia, but definitely different than Europe and the US, where you know, compared to the amount of internet users, the number of domain names is quite small. But we have a very trusted, secure ccTLD operator. So I think it's just ingrained that you get, if you're starting a business, you get a JP. If you're going to go a little bit into Asia, then you're going to go get the ccTLDs, and then you're going to get .com, net, info. But we're seeing a lot of websites pop up now that are following the AI trend, .ai, .io, and then you've got, which I guess you get ccTLDs that fit the niche of the company applying. So tech companies go for .tech. Also, surprisingly, a slightly generic .xyz has picked up a little bit of steam as well. So I just think that maybe the younger entrepreneurs are looking at new gTLDs more than the, I guess, the old school. And then I think as far as an appetite goes for the next round, I haven't really had my finger on the pulse of this so much. But I know there are several companies who have done an analysis of why they didn't apply in the 2012 round. And they're going through that process now, thinking about applying in this round. And then there are several companies that want to go for a generic TLD that they applied, didn't get it. And so they're going back and learning the lessons of how to maybe be more strategic in their approach. And then, of course, we've seen several other internet technology companies abroad run their own single registrant TLDs. And so that's kind of an interesting theme too for, I guess, hosting companies as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sounds like a lot of folks maybe looking back and seeing what worked, what didn't work, and take inspiration for that for the future. Anything else anyone wants to add, Catherine?
Okay. I may share some aspect in Chinese market. So as the first round, only few corporate or the brands know the new gTLD program. So only a few TLDs applied in the first round. So some of them are the .brand TLD, just like .ctic, .baidu, .unicom. They also apply for their IDN TLDs in mainland China. So after that, I think .city had very good use in their brand TLD. And in the next round, I think it still need a long time to educate the market. What is a TLD, how to operate a TLD, and the best use case over the world, or find some good company user case to show to the brand or the corporate to let them know about the new gTLD program. That's the crucial things in China market. So I think in the next round, there will be some brand TLD will be appeared, I think.
Yeah, thank you for that. And indeed, the increased awareness is, of course, an important factor. And I know that at least my ICANN or colleagues have been working very hard on that, working with many of you here in the region as well to spread the word and to make sure that people are aware of the opportunities that exist and on that basis make a determination whether it's for them or not. Because as you said, there is, of course, a lot that comes into play and that people need to be aware of as well. Anyone from the audience that would like to comment on this? Oh, I see someone coming up. Please go ahead.
Hey everyone, this is Venki. I'm a consultant for registries and registrars. I have a question for the panelists today. So in the last round, many brands who applied for their .brand TLDs, they actually, handful of them surrendered them back to ICANN, and many of them didn't actually put it to use, rather they shelved it. So I would like to know what is your thoughts about it from the panelists. And also I would like to know, what is your opinion that this time a lot of brands might try to actually put it to use? Will there be value for them to look for?
Thank you. It's a very interesting question. Do you want to? Yeah.
So in first round, a lot of the brand TLD apply because they don't know what's happening. So they apply basically from a intellectual property protection perspective. The owner within the company was actually from the legal team, the intellectual property team to be specific. So as you can imagine, you know, if the legal team apply for it and pay for it and get it, later on they try to talk internally about how to use it. But the marketing team, the sales team doesn't actually know what this is. So, you know, and then, you know, a couple of years later on, they, you know, some of the original applicant or the owner of the brand TLD left the company, and then it's basically no one take care of it. That's actually what happened in round one, specifically for the .brand. And it would be quite a different situation in round two, as I can imagine, because there are active use case with Microsoft, Google, and all that. They are using it. We can see how they're using it. The case study that we can pull from, which is also available on ICANN website as well. So I would say that a lot of the company are still really exploring how to use it, but the intention for the application changed from intellectual property protection into something else. And that's a healthy thing to happen. And so we don't know exactly how round two will end up, but I think the early observation is that, at least for the .brand, we are probably going to see a very different motivation for the application itself.
I'm not a .brand operator, but let me share you my thoughts on a .brand giving back the contract to ICANN. They applied for it. The personnel has changed, as you mentioned. And I personally think it's a completely normal process within a larger company. Someone has an idea, someone gets a budget, and then this new project, the new car, the prototype, at some point of time said, oh, it doesn't work. I think Apple just dropped the iCar after I don't know how many billions of investments. That's a normal process within a brand. I can't drop .Vienna. I made a commitment to the city government. They rely on that this company, my company, will run this TLD for the citizens, for the culture, for representing whatever of the region. So no way to give back a gTLD from the perspective of the one who is operating it. But being a .brand, killing or seizing one project, I think is a normal life cycle within a larger company. Not being experienced in this, but this is what is my feeling on that. And I don't think that it is an alarming situation. Some brands, some companies giving back the TLD just because they don't have any more need for it.
Thank you. Michael, I see you have your hand up.
So just to follow up, I would agree that a lot of the defensive registrations that landed in the legal department and it was done defensively. I can tell you, however, that I did work with some where the marketing people did apply. The problem there was the glitch and the delay. And what happened was, during this period of time, the people that came up with their vision, that particular chief marketing officer moved on. The new person came in and was like, what is this thing? So that, to me, I think was also a problem. And Marika, you've kept the trains running on time, so I'm confident we will not have any glitches and we will avoid some of the problems from the 2012 round. So kudos to you and your team. The one thing that I would like to just state that I think is important, and the ICANN Brand Registry Group recently put out a paper on this. When approaching a brand, it is important to take within that company a holistic approach. And by having a holistic approach where you're reaching out to legal, marketing, and IT. The ability for any one of those people to move on and go to another company, there is still continuity in that vision of what is seeking to be achieved. So that to me is probably the most important thing for anyone in the audience thinking about, working with a brand. When approaching it, you literally want to have that holistic approach with IT, legal, and marketing, and that is the best way. For almost all of the ones where I would say where a brand walked away or basically gave back the contract, in most of those, it was a singular business unit where that individual may have left and moved on. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And I think that echoes what the others have said here. It's indeed important to have general buy-in and make sure it's not a single person that is behind this. And when they leave, no one knows actually why they did it. And sometimes it may be indeed the cost of business trying out things that work or do not work. I don't know if anyone else wants to respond on this question.
I just want to quickly mention about universal acceptance as well. If you remember back into the round one, we are not ready with UA. So that's why when a brand successfully apply for it, they have to wait until UA is ready. And a couple of years later, that person left. So I think round two could potentially be different because we are a lot better at UA at the moment. And that's certainly one of the reasons why we have to continue to host UA Day, right?
Thank you for that. Justine, please go ahead.
Thanks, Marika. This is Justine Chu. So I had two questions. The first question was in relation to defensive registrations of .brand. So I'm actually very happy that someone asked that question. So I'm going to move on to my second question, which is probably mostly directed to Jacob and Alban. So a couple of years ago at the APAC DNS forum, that was, I think it's a couple of years ago, that was held virtually and hosted by my CCTLD operator. There was one speaker from Japan. I honestly can't remember the person's name, but the conclusion that I drew from his presentation was there was no demand for Japanese script domain names, right? And that was a couple of years ago. So do you have a sense of whether that has changed over the course of 2 years?
So that was me, and sometimes I say things a little bit bolder than I should, I guess. But in fact, when we were having our panel prep, I discussed a little bit about IDNs and thought I didn't want to step on my own feet by talking about it. So I appreciate the question. No, in fact, I did look up just to kind of prep myself a little bit. I looked at the .jp numbers for IDN.jp. As you know, in Japan, we don't have a Nihon, a kanji or a Chinese character TLD for the country. We have a .mina, which is Google's IDN for everyone. But in all those cases where an IDN exists in Japan, the registration volume has dropped. So I looked up the numbers and I calculated it, and I've got some folks from JPRS in the room. So I hope I'm not misspeaking, but about 6% of the registrations in .jp are IDN. And at one point, when IDNs first launched, it was 30% of the registration volume. Granted, at that time, the total number of volume was much lower than it is now for .jp, but.
So do you have an insight as to why there is a drop? Is it related to, say, UA or some factor that is instigating this drop?
I would say originally, just the usability was poor, right? Email problems, resolution problems, form problems. And I think it just, maybe it's just a trust factor. And now when you look at, I guess any engineer's coding, it's the directors are all in English, and URLs are all using English words, not necessarily ASCII for the Japanese equivalent, but English words. So I don't know. I think I would just peg it as a trust issue, and maybe UA can solve that, and we can get get some Japanese script TLDs that are successful. I was very hopeful for Google's .mina, and it had a very good launch day. But every year, if you look at the graph on NTLD stats, it's just stepping down. So,
Thank you.
So, Justine, are you tempting us to say anything bad about IDN on UA Day? I mean,
No, I'm just trying to understand what is it that, what are the factors that prompted this drop, as Jacob has very aptly pointed out. And if it's something that, the ICANN community can deal with, then all the better.
yeah, I think I can add on to this and give my perspective as well, because I try a lot to talk to some larger companies and encourage them to use IDN domain name as well. The matter of fact is that we are not going to see adoption until there is a demand from the society, because they are registering the domain name for business. They don't see other people using it. There's no general awareness in the market about IDN domain names. And for larger corporations, they typically already have the main domain name of the brand already. So because they already have it, there's no reason why they have to change it into IDN as well. And that's a problem, because if the larger company don't use it, the smaller company don't see the larger guys are using it, they are not encouraged to use it as well. And that is a structural problem that I see in terms of IDN adoption. So how do we change it? I don't have an answer. I think that's certainly something that we have to work together as an industry to create that awareness, the demand, and at least from a UA perspective, we need to make sure that it can be used for it to actually start working.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for that question, Justine. So I think we've already spoken a little bit about the opportunities. I think here are already some of the challenges, but I would like to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that. So, and get your perspectives on what do you think are the specific challenges that potential applicants face in general, but also here in the region, and what would your advice to them be to overcome those challenges? I would like to start on this one. Yep, Jacob, go ahead.
So I think maybe just to backtrack just a little bit on the issue with, I guess, with brands dropping their TLDs. There was a lot of delays, as Michael pointed out, in that first round, where the champion of the brand left before the delegation happened, and then it was confusing. So I think the first thing that's a challenge is just the predictability. So, and that's something that the ICANN community and the ICANN org has really worked hard in addressing, I think, this round. Then I think it was also touched on that a lot of brands applied for maybe TLDs they didn't need. There were several brands that had their brand name, and then they had their slogan name as a TLD as well. Which I think you'd look at now and go, why would you do that? It's lack of understanding and fear of missing out. So I think just kind of solving that predictability part will help a little bit with that fear of missing out, knowing that the next round's not going to be 12 years away. It's going to be, sooner than later. And then just in general, I think for folks that aren't in the industry, they don't come to ICANN meetings, maybe not even too familiar with ICANN. They've just heard or seen that there's an opportunity for new TLDs. The application process can seem daunting and complex. And I think there's been a lot of work to kind of simplify that as well. So those barriers are probably becoming a little bit less. And then I think just in our region in particular, maybe there's some language barriers as well, kind of understanding the whole process. So I mentioned that a few companies in Japan applied for TLDs in the first round, but they didn't know that there was a whole nother set of clarifying questions, a year wait for the approvals, or they weren't familiar with the contention resolution process. And so when they found out, oh, I've got 5 competitors, now what do? I guess I'll just drop out. there was just a disconnect on the whole process. And so I think that comes down to a lot of just language barriers, barriers to understand the process, maybe lack of, being in the industry in general.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. And that maybe allows me as well to already promote what we're doing on applicant readiness. And I think there will be a blog coming out soon where we'll be sharing some more information on the materials we're putting together, because we've heard that many times. Applicant guidebook obviously is a complex document. It is the specific rules, but providing some easier materials for people to at least understand what the expectations are and then help them go through that process. And of course, they still need to understand what is in the applicant guidebook, but at least that high-level explanation may help to a certain degree get some of that information across and underway. Ronald.
I'm normally not stressing problems, but in one case, and especially, I don't know this region economically or so, but I think it's not specific to Europe that applying for a TLD, gTLD especially, if you have a small federal state or a small city, it's $250,000, the application fee. Yeah, it's an ongoing cost, and I can give you some details. It's about $80,000 euros a year that a TLD will cost you. It's the fees to ICANN, it's the fees to the registry service provider. You have to pay an Ibero, you have to pay someone who is taking care of these domain name abuse regulations under paragraph 11.3b or whatever. So you come up to 55,000 in fixed costs that you cannot avoid. And then you have to have at least one person, which is not enough, but probably you have a good consultant. And if you have a cheap consultant, he can do it for 25,000 a year. And then you end up with 80,000 for your own TLD. I gave you the example, hypothetical example of the city of Salzburg. They are running on the salzburg.at. This domain name costs them, let's make it easy, $80 a year. And now, having their own TLD, they are spending or have to spend 80,000 a year. Yeah, this is thousands of times. They have 1,000 more possibilities, but in times of communities, municipalities having, let me call it, non-positive budgets and accounts year per year, it's really hard for a mayor, for a administrative director of a city to say we are spending $250,000 not on redoing the pavement, but on a TLD. I've experienced such sentences when talking to prospective applicants or clients of my consulting company. So this is hard, convincing them that they can make money, probably if the thing goes well, but have to spend 250,000, 300,000 in advance and 80 a year. This is a problem, despite the opportunities you're getting with it. I know there's nothing like a free lunch, but it is in the beginning, very, very expensive lunch.
Yeah, thank you. So you're saying indeed it's important to kind of weigh the strategic value against the cost and understanding that those costs go beyond just the application, but an ongoing cost, and applicants need to think about that balance of the value and the cost they need to pay for that. Other perspectives on this one? Yeah.
Michael.
Thank you. Michael, are you putting your hand up?
I'm putting my hand up.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Michael Plage, for the record. So I think one of the things, and Ronald, there's been some back and forth on the registry list about this. One of the requirements for all gTLD registry operators is that you must use ICANN accredited registrars as your distribution channel. And one of the problems, and again, I'm going to look at this from an Asia Pacific region perspective to the best of my ability, is that most of the registrar, if you look at market share and dominance, are basically based in the United States, and their business models are geared towards selling .com, .orgs, and .infos. They are not geared towards selling a Strasbourg or a .bank. So I think that is something that is very important, that you go and look and try to identify a local registrar that you could potentially work with. I think this is incredibly important. And there was a recent webinar done by the Internet Commerce Association with Zach, Jeff, Sophie, and Tom, a bunch of ICANN longtime vets. And they actually discussed this in greater detail, some of these specific challenges. So what I would like to do is, for those registries, instead of running to try to replicate a VeriSign or an Identity Digital, I think if you look at the local community, and one of the things that I would like to call out is Plenary and some of the work that TH Nick has done. About a year and a half ago at the ICANN meeting in Puerto Rico, they actually participated as part of the CCNSO Tech Day and went through and detailed how they are integrating digital identity and registrant verification into their program. When I was at the DNS OARC event in Da Nang, the local CCTLD also talked about how they were integrating KYC. You look at what's going on in Australia and others, particularly in Europe. So going back to the theme that I had talked about regarding .bank and how they have a very high KYC requirement, I think getting to know your customer and working with that registrar to enable that is probably the most important thing, because if you don't have your distribution channel in place, hard is almost going to become impossible. So again, maybe Plenary, if you can talk to that. I know there's been a growing trend among, I think, Asian as well as Europeans to really look at KYC and digital identity, and that may be another opportunity.
Thanks, Michael. So I think what I hear you're saying is as well, like, look beyond what you need for the application, but also what comes after and the relationships you may already need to establish to make sure your TLD is successful after you've completed the application process. No, Plenary, do you want to comment to that?
So I support Michael's ideas. So for Thailand, we have the registry operator, and we also have the ICANN accredited registrar. That's why they can host new gTLD, which is the bank .scb in Thailand. So they have specific channel or the secure channel to register the domain name. And by Michael mentioned about the eKYC, we at the THNIC, we also checking the identity for each registrant to register domain so that we can limit the fraud or scam or the cybersecurity issues. So we work with the National Digital ID platform that we check the identity of person, but we would like also to extend the verification with other organizations, like to identify the business identities, something like that. We are trying to reach more identity provider, and with ourselves, we are working on the EAI as and digital identity for Thai, because Thai language is also the official language, and we are trying to get more use case of the email address as the digital identity. So I think we will work on this part.
Thank you very much. And then we go to.
So I would like to address the challenge question in two ways. So the first way that I want to talk about is, I'll give you an example. So I've been trying to create something called an ICANN private sector engagement event, and we did one in China, a month ago, roughly. So one of the questions that we posed to the audience is that how many of them know ICANN? And only a few hands actually come up. So if they don't even know ICANN, they certainly don't know about new gTLD program. And if you don't know about it, they're certainly not going to apply for it. So that's certainly one of the problem. And I would say that ICANN, in our promotion of new gTLD program, typically we are doing it in an industry event. We need to go out there into the society to promote new gTLD actively. And it should be done not in an ICANN event for industry people, but going to a cybersecurity event, going to a intellectual property event, for example, to actually tell people, this is actually happening. And then we are going to see adoption rise. I don't know whether this is actually an APAC specific issue, but I can certainly say that there will be a lot less people know about ICANN in APAC in comparison to maybe US. Now, this is one perspective. The other perspective is actually about the adoption of new gTLD itself. Now, if you ask some of the Southeast Asian countries, especially, about what they care mostly about in relation to domain names, I would guarantee you scam is going to be one of the most popular answer. So scam is not part of DNS abuse, but when it comes to the round 2, what's going to happen is that there are going to be a lot more scam and phishing and all that in the APAC region, especially. So when we talk about adoption and challenges of new gTLD, not only from a application perspective, but actually people trusting it, using it, and stuff like that, we have to be able to think about something that is a little bit broader than our traditional definition of DNS abuse, and maybe involving more parties, addressing issues that APAC country actually cares about, like scam or manga piracy. So that would be helpful to address some of the challenges, I think.
Thank you. And how convenient that Alan is right at the mic here.
It's almost as if I knew. My name is Alan Woods. I'm the Chief Legal Officer of Clean DNS. And it's not about Clean DNS today. I think when we're looking at the challenges of the next round, we can also look at the lessons learned from the first round. And I think you've talked about how it's expensive. And of course, driving the costs or filling in the gap of that cost will be things such as pushing for promotions, pushing for cheaper domains, get the stock off the shelves in order to make that new TLD a success. So from the lessons that we've seen from the first round is, I would suggest grow clean, start being aggressive, have very clear anti-DNS abuse statements, acceptable use policies. And from day one, that was one of the things we didn't have in the first round. We were finding our way a lot when it came to DNS abuse and dealing with DNS abuse and even defining what DNS abuse was at the time. But we're coming from a much stronger place with the recent amendments and how that will translate into the next round. So my suggestion and one of the challenges, yes, of the new round is keeping your zone as clean as possible, but learn from the mistakes, I suppose, of the past and start strong, be aggressive, make it a place that people want to register with trust from day one. And there are products out there. I mean, I can think of one that's written on my chest right now of Clean DNS that can help. But I would suggest as you're planning your new gTLD application, think of that from day one and make sure that you're in with a clean growth from day one. And that will make things a lot easier as time goes by.
Thank you for that perspective.
I fully agree with Alban. So when we met the customer before in Chinese market, we talked with the customer about the new gTLD program. They also asked us several questions. Some of them are who is the ICANN, how much for one TLD, why they should pay too much money to this one, and how can we use this TLD? This is most frequent question for us need to be answers to our clients. And then, as we know that AJB will publish, the draft of AJB will be published by the end of May, and they can know the exact price when they can apply for TLD and how much they need to pay for, even if the gTLD, JTLD, or IDN TLD, or .brand TLD as well. And then, as you know, in China, 500 or more AJB languages in a book, they need to understand what are they say, what kind of documentation they need to be prepared. And of course, they can find the agent to do that, to help them. But for the legal team, they also need to sign the RA with between the ICANN and the company. So they need to know what kind of documentation they need to apply for ICANN. So then I suggest we need to prepare some list or something education to the market to let the customer to know what kind of information they need to prepare in advance, because they need to translation, they need to do the internal process. This kind of issue should be appear in the next round.
Thank you for that. And as said, we're very aware that there's a need for that and actively working on that. I've heard as well kind of the raising of awareness, going out there, where we usually don't go. I know our colleagues in the region here are making those efforts, and of course working with many of you who are indeed providing guidance as well and suggestions on what are good events to talk about this program, and again to spread the word. So we really appreciate that. Any further comments on kind of the challenges, or from the audience here, anything else you would like to flag, or any advice you have for anyone that's thinking about applying for a TLD? Jim, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Marika. Jim Prendergast with the Galway Strategy Group, worked on about 150 applications the last round. And to echo what Mike said, looking forward finally to the next round kicking off here shortly. The distribution is the big thing. I mean, signing up registrars is the biggest challenge, especially if you're a single TLD applicant or a niche applicant. Getting carriage from registrars now is more difficult than ever. When the program first launched, there was a lot of excitement and registrars were signing up everybody left and right. That seems to have slowed down recently. So, the advice to applicants is make sure you've got that built-in distribution channel before you even put down the deposit to ICANN. Marika, I'm gonna ask a question or plant a question, because I know we're running out of time, and you probably can't answer it, nor should you, but you can't do a panel like this without asking how many applications do you think we'll see in this next round?
All right, who wants to take that one?
My gut feel, I can't speak on the generic. I'll speak on the brands. My personal guess is that it's going to be roughly about 30% more than last round. That would be my guess, and I have some reason why I take that guess, but might be too long to share. But I would hope that we are also going to see a little bit more gTLD application as well. In terms of generic, I really have no idea.
Well, you're slightly more optimistic than me, but I do feel like we'll probably be in the ballpark of what we saw in the last round, probably slightly less is my feeling, and that's just based on the larger generic portfolio applicants that came out in that first round. I don't know that we'll see to that extent in this next round. Also, just in general, like our market, in 2012, it was 80 yen per dollar. It's like 140 today. So, I mean, the price is so much higher. I know that maybe some brands can stomach that, but some smaller applicants might have a harder time with the fees. And if I can just go back really quick to the distribution channel, because that's something I did want to hit on, and Michael talked about it, and you also talked about it. back in 2012, I think when we were talking to registrars, there was this whole feeling in the industry that registrars are going to start charging shelf space. It's been 10 years. We're finally starting to see that now. So that's something else any new applicant would want to keep in mind with their costs. If you're going to go with a large global generic, you're going to have to talk to those large global registrars and find out what their shelf space costs.
Hello? Yeah. Ronald, I can't predict for the generics. My feeling, but probably I have too few ideas. I think the best generics are gone. Probably, I thought it before the last round also, and there have been some very good ideas then. For the brands, I have a feeling this could be significantly more. The brand, the name of the company, the name of the products, hopefully. For the geos, and this is where I have the most experience in, especially the European geos. 2 years before, I thought it would be more than last round. Now I'm thinking it will be less. Not only the issue of money, but the issue of NIS2, the regulation. TLD providers are seen as critical infrastructure providers, like electricity, like water, like bank, and the TLD is a critical infrastructure provider. Municipalities, cities have been kept out of NIS2 obligations, so they are not affected by them. If they become a TLD operator, they are caught by NIS2. And the some cities I've talked to say, please leave me alone. I'm that happy that I'm not affected by NIS2. I don't want to get NIS2 obligations in again through my back door just because I'm doing a TLD. It's not the last word, but it's an additional hurdle that we have. You can find means that they are not the official, that they are not officially running the TLD. So it's again a consultant job. You have to find some solution, but it is on a table that it's getting an additional hurdle, and it's a high hurdle.
Thank you. Michael, see your hand up.
Yep, thank you. I'm feeling in a good betting mood, so I'll go 1,500. I would, and the reason I say that is I would agree with Albin, like I've done for most of this session. I do think you will see probably more brands this time than the last time. A lot of that is based upon some of the use cases that we're now seeing emerging from Microsoft and others. One other big quick shout out is Matt and Christina from Amazon gave a presentation during the BRG session at ICANN 82. I would encourage everyone to look at that. And the most important part from that was Amazon was a very active player in the last round with both generics as well as brands. And Amazon made very clear that they will likely be players again. They are already going through internally with different lists of TLDs under consideration. So the fact that someone like Amazon invested substantially in the last round and are still contemplating participating in the other, I think aligns with Albin's view and mine that there will be more brands this time. I think there probably will be less generics, but that gap may be filled by a lot of the crypto Web3 type hype. So that I think could be the other ones. So there you go. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. I know, Andrew or Catherine, do you want to take a bet as well, or you're taking a pass?
So in terms of Thailand, I can guess only for Thailand. Last round, the applicant reached us 1 month before the closing date. So, and no awareness of the community. But this round, we do awareness event. So we expect more than 1 application from Thailand. And as a small registry operator and registrar, I think I would like to call out that in any country that would like to apply, we should work together to share the costs so that we can, bring the successful case. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Catherine?
For Chinese market, I think most of them maybe .brand TLDs in next round and only a few gTLD. I think maybe gTLD and some gTLDs will be appear in Chinese market. And the total number of the next round, I guess it should be a little bit more than the first round.
Thank you for your perspectives on that. I think this is the last call for audience questions or comments as we're running close to the end. And I know we're already a bit over the official started time, but we did start a little bit late. So I think we have a few extra minutes. Is there anyone else that wants to either take a guess and make a bet, or any other questions you have for the panel? If not, I think we can slowly wrap up. Maybe a kind of a last round for everyone, and maybe especially looking around the room for those that may not be active in this industry, but now have heard about the program and think, hey, maybe it is actually of interest to me. What should they do, or how would you suggest they would proceed in kind of getting further information and deciding whether or not this is for them or not?
Oh, there's a question actually.
Oh, go ahead.
Here, one quick question. So I'm just curious, so from the date of the window opens for the application, like till the time some TLD who got approved can register their first domain, how much time do you guys expect this round?
I would recommend you look to the applicant guidebook that comes out for public comment, where we've provided some more specific estimates, because I know the team is working through that on what each of the phases looks like. And obviously there's also based on the estimates we're making. I think we're currently making our plans based on 2,000 applications, but obviously if that significantly differs, that timeline looks different. But I recommend looking at that, because I know that's a question we've received from many in the community. So that information will be in there. Thank you. So maybe going back to the panel.
Before I comment on the last question, I just want to quickly respond to some of the comment, especially from Ronald as well. So I think NIS2 is actually quite interesting, because it's basically put domain name DNS as part of a critical infrastructure concept. This could be bad and it could be good as well, because it's basically put domain in a position that it is of value. Otherwise, it shouldn't be critical infrastructure. So, following that kind of concept, we can also see, for example, maybe a municipal government, they are able to build using a .brand to build a safe space with protective DNS and all that, basically creating something similar to Microsoft, right? But you're applying this on a local jurisdiction. This could be a creative use case, going back to the last session as well. So I believe some of this challenge could actually be an opportunity as well. And if we are able to, kind of convey this kind of concept to the right people as an industry, we might be able to see even more application next round with this kind of creative use cases. And another comment that I want to make in terms of .brand as well is in terms of the geographical spread. In round one, we're seeing a lot more from the US and Europe in terms of .brand. I'm thinking that this round we're going to see a lot more from APAC, just because it's 14 years and some of the demand are hidden, and people, once people know about it, they haven't really have the opportunity to apply. So we're going to see even the .brand skew a little bit towards the APAC region in comparison to last round. Now, going back to the question, what would be my recommendation if you are wanting to apply for it? If you are a brand, talk to us. That's certainly my recommendation. But in general sense, I would say that going back to what Michael mentioned before, we should really strive to have a multi-stakeholder approach within the company or within, even for generic domain names, that we really look into intellectual property, security, marketing, and different perspective, and really understand how do we actually use it. And we really should be looking into DNS abuse and maybe even beyond DNS abuse, because when we are launching domain space, trust is really important. And if we don't think about trust and security upfront, this is not going to be a very good thing. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, I'll make my comments really quick. I think the first thing I'd like to mention is it's an exciting time. Like being a registry operator is a really rewarding job. It's always fun for us to talk to our .earth registrants and find out what they're into. And you don't have to be a domain expert to get into becoming a registry operator. I met countless applicants. One of them from .buzz. Just a guy from Arkansas. Come to ICANN. Talked to everybody he knew in the industry to get the information. Applied and got .buzz. So I would recommend, if you can make it to an ICANN meeting, come to an ICANN meeting, talk to registry operators. ICANN has a lot of resources on their web pages. Review the registry service providers who have been or who are going through the evaluations now. And then you can build a good team together. And then Ronald will probably touch on it too, but you probably need to be aware of the regulations all over the world for privacy, abuse, cybersecurity, things like that.
Thank you.
We've learned from the last round. We, meaning the gTLD group and ICANN, you talked, Alban, about the problems of getting clients, future clients, to ICANN events to inform them. There is a Smart City World Expo in Barcelona end of this year. We will be there to have an outreach. We are taking well-established expos and events to take the topic of, in this case, gTLDs to the stage, and any city administration or whatever has the possibility or probably visits the Smart City Expo in Barcelona anyhow. So we hope to get new clients or new interested people, administrations there. I think this is a way to go. I know that the brands are doing similar things. I think they are at somewhere in Texas or something like this. Not only relying on ICANN events, but go to well-established events to have outreach sessions.
Thanks, Ronald. Catherine or Plenary?
For me, I think if you are small organization or not-for-profit organization, you may look into the application supporting program that will lower the application fee for you, and then reach out to the registry service provider that will be, evaluated before the open round. Then you can work with them for your application.
Thank you. Catherine?
So for me, I recommend if a new registry, if they would like to apply for gTLD or some IDN TLDs, should conduct local research in their local market to create a generic, memorable, and easier accessible IDN gTLDs, and then find a nice partner to help you to get through all the process and find the appropriate RSP in the ones.
Thank you. Michael, any final words of advice?
Yes. One of the things, there are two sayings I share with almost any person or company I meet with that asks about new TLDs. The first is operating a TLD is not a guarantee for a license to print money. The second point is Operating a TLD, you must approach it as a marathon, not a sprint. And taking that long-term view is critically important to having the success that I think most people are striving for.
Thank you very much. And I think that with that, our time is up. I would really like to thank our panelists and as well the audience for your participation. Thank you all very much. And now you can all go to the social events. Thank you.
Thank you, our moderator and speaker, for your interesting sharing. And may I invite all of you to stand at the center of the stage. And now, Mr. Michael, our remote speaker, please stay on as well. We will move your window, Zoom window to the centers so we can have a photo taking together. Please move a bit to the left. Yeah, thank you. Okay, smile. Once again, thank you very much for your sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of today's section, but the program doesn't end. Please come join us at the Welcome Social this evening, hosted by V and Nick. The Welcome Social with buffet dinner will be held at the Hanoi Museum starting at 7 p.m. and shuttle bus to the venue are available between 6 and 6:30 p.m. Pick-up will be from the Intercontinental Hotel lobby on the ground floor. And please bring along your event badges. As the welcome social will be outdoor, you may want to dress light and bring along your insect repellent. Kính thưa quý vị, thay mặt cho ban tổ chức, chúng tôi xin được kính mời quý vị tham dự bữa tiệc chào mừng tại Bảo tàng Hà Nội vào lúc 7 giờ tối nay. Và chúng tôi có chuẩn bị xe đưa đón vào lúc 6 giờ đến 6 giờ 30 tại sảnh khách sạn và vui lòng mang theo thẻ tham dự sự kiện. And with that, we have come to an end for today and we will see you at the Welcome Social or tomorrow at 9 a.m. for our first session. Have a good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.